One of the most important parts of running any kind of services-based business, in my case, a software development company, that I severely underestimated how challenging and important it would be was communicating with clients. So I've been running in software agency for the better part of the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, and I've learned a lot about this stuff. And I now have, an entire kind of like SOP and playbook on how to communicate, how to manage and track projects. So like there's a client workspace where we keep everything. We put everything we've produced, so designs, app store submission documentation, backend documentation, production deploy instructions, weekly updates, like all of this stuff in one document. Is all like every week they get added, they get a new update with a Loom video, a write-up, like basically grew the system. When I started out, I had zero idea about any of this, and my project updates were basically random WhatsApp messages that I could, sometimes remember to send. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I think it was one of the bigger unlocks to quality. And I first want to go through why it's important, because streamlining your communication is what sets you apart from other service providers. Like in the case of, let's say, coding or editing or designing, like there's a certain level which is skill, right? And so like there's skill at this level and skill at that level. But there's a bunch of people at the same skill level as you. And if you write the same code as everybody else, then you are essentially a commodity. And the only difference between you two is price. If you compete on price, you will just erode your margins and you'll be raced to the bottom. And it's also very hard to demonstrate, like at least in code, how your code is a lot better other than maybe the way you speak about your technical approach and things like that. But in design, maybe your design is better, but if you have two design agencies, both which are very good, the only difference is price, right? You are not the only person who can code React. You're not the only person who can design in Figma. You're not the only person who can run a marketing campaign, whatever, any kind of services business. So one of the key points of differentiation is how you treat your clients and how they feel when they're treated. That is also one of the key differences in, if you see like luxury items, a big part of that luxury process is like the way that you're taken into the boutique and you get sold a nice thing and you get the sparkling water and the this and that. Like it's how you were treated, which actually over time differentiates you from other things as well. Now the luxury industry is just a little example, but in services that's even more of a big deal because a lot of the times bad service providers are terrible at communication, and that is a huge mistake. And so that is one of the key differences between like my company and other agencies, that we have a way better relationship with like 90% of our clients because they constantly get updates. Every time we do work for them, they're hearing about it. Now, bear in mind, making updates is extra work. Like it doesn't come for free. These are additional steps you have to take to document things. If I could, I would provide updates every day, but that is too much of a workload if we have several clients on board. At some point, if I scale enough and I have enough manpower that I might be able to do that, I would consider doing that. The more updates you can do, the better. For me, a weekly cadence is something that I can manage with all the other responsibilities that I have in my business and with the number of clients that we have. But you must, I think, firstly, establish a cadence, a regular cadence on which you communicate with clients. That's the number one thing. The second thing is establish somewhere to document. So do not do it only on calls. Or if you do it only on calls, have a place where all these calls are recorded and I can always find all of these things. And this should always be available to the client at any point in time via some kind of link. There are so many ways that you can share things online. There's no excuse for this. It can be a shared Google Drive folder. It can be a shared Trello board. It can be a shared Notion document, which is what I do. It can be anything, but it has to be some shared living document that evolves over time, because then you have now a living record of everything that is going on that has been documented. So we now have these two things in place. Firstly, there's a regular cadence. I know when to expect to hear from you. I know when to expect to send a message to my client. Secondly, there's a reference for the client, a historical reference. And if you, for whatever reason, miss something, send a late update. That's okay. Sometimes my update goes out 2 days late. And I say, hey, listen, I'm really sorry. I messed up this week, the time, whatever. But you have to still send it and then still add it to the document. So you have a historical record of what's being done. And that consistency is hard. And I would say for 90% of people, they aren't even doing those two. So don't get any more advanced than that. Just set a cadence, do something regularly with a client. Either it's messages, either it's, a daily little update, a weekly wrap up, a weekly call, whatever, and then document that somewhere. So keep that somewhere alive, right? So make a historical document. And then I would say like after that, once you've got those two parts in place, develop more things in terms of like communication. So develop more pieces that you can send them. When you send them more granular updates, increase the cadence at which you send messages to them. That's I would say like the next big unlock. And then there's kind of like outside of that, in broader communication, I would say be very upfront about challenges that you have, mistakes, delays, things like that. Like be upfront about it and be very, very candid with people. They appreciate that more than anything. Like I just want somebody to be real with me. I don't want the smoke and mirrors. I don't want the pretty fancy message. I just want you to sit down and tell me the truth. Like, is my project or not? Because if it is, I need to adjust accordingly. And I like the earlier you go to them and tell them that, the more important. And come, go to them apologetically, things like that. If you need to, be honest, be candid, be responsible, take responsibility for things. If they are not happy, it is your fault. It is nobody else's. It is your fault if the client is not satisfied, and that you must communicate that effectively. Don't try to fight. Avoid arguments at all costs. If you want to know how to avoid arguments, read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Very, very good book on how to communicate, how to deal with people. These are like soft communication skills that are broader. But the client stuff is specifically like my approach to streamline communication is what I talked about in like the first 2-3 minutes of this video. But yeah, I think that's such an underrated piece of the business, the services business. I did not understand this in the slightest when I started, and that was a really big mistake. My clients had to chase me up to know about project updates, and that is a huge mistake. If your client has to reach out to you in order to hear about their project, something is very, very wrong in your communication cadence. Unless your client is like very, very pushy and like contacting you like every other day, they should know when to expect messages and project updates. It should be a regular cadence. They should know when to expect it. People like consistency, right? So that's where I would start. And I think this will evolve over time, and I will just move to produce more communication to the clients, more progress updates, more of everything. Yeah. So outside of that, today I've just been on calls. I just got off a call of 7-call marathon, basically back to back. And it became like domino effect, right? Where one call was like 5 minutes to 10 minutes late, and the next one was like 20 minutes late. And then I managed to recuperate because there was a small break. But it's been back to back. But they've been good. They've been good calls. But I'm a little bit like mentally tired, but I have to make time for some Intel stuff and some client stuff. And I just gotta pull that time out of somewhere. Not sure how. But yeah. Anyway, I'd say today's probably been a relatively stressful day because I woke up late. I really didn't want to wake up late, and so I've ended up paying for some stupid alarm app because I'm so pissed that I can't seem to wake up on time. It's just been a historical struggle of mine. Like I like working in the mornings. I love it, but to get out of bed, like most days I'm fine, but some days like I make stupid mistakes, stupid blunders, and I want to stop myself from doing that. So anyway, I woke up later than planned, and I lost a lot of like valuable work time, specifically in the mornings, because that's when I need to get a lot of things done. Because in the afternoon, it's all calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Today's a Thursday, so it was all calls. And yeah, I was very, very busy. And I just effectively didn't really have time to like do the deep work that I need to do. And so I have to make time for this now in the evenings, which is not ideal. But anyway, I'm gonna head out of the house. Actually, I'm gonna go to the gym and then take a shower and head to my girlfriend's place because I want to work from there because my room, it just gets too hot. It's too sunny in London at the moment. And I'm on the 30th floor with a window that is facing the sun, which is nice for sunrise and stuff, but like in summer is no joke. So yeah. That's a bit of a random collection of updates, but yeah, that's it for today.